I'll carry on drinking my tea. I'll eventually finish this. It's only about half an hour old. No, over half an hour.
It's not too bad. Okay, so let's start. So the first set of questions are all about your childhood.
Right.
So,
that could be a strain.
That's all right. So, where were you born?
5 Centaur Street.
Which is where? In
Well, I suppose that would come under Stampshaw. It's just the other side of Commercial Road as you come round Kingston Crescent. As you start to turn left at Kingston Crescent, there's a road that used to run along the back. There was Commercial Road. There was Centaur Street, number 5.
Okay. And is it still there? Does it still exist?
No, it's all those buildings that have been built, a block of flats now, and those, you know, they stretch for about 500 yards.
Okay, excellent. So these aren't in a particular order, but they're in a rough, vague order. So, what, as you remember, what is your very, very earliest memory that you can think of? Childhood memory?
Well, I was about 3, and at the bottom of, we live this end of Centaur Road, and down the other end, I can't remember the name of that road, there was a sweet shop, and in that sweet shop they had some very tiny sweets, and the jar was full up, and it says, guess how many sweets are in this jar to win this, I think, to win the sweets. Great big jar of bloody sweets, and thousands, I thought. But obviously he must have known what they, you know, how many were in there. They were called 1001 sweets. They were very small.
Yeah.
Just little boiled sweet, different tastes. And I said to, I came home from something. I'd gone up there to do some shopping. I'd come home, and my brother Roy was there. I'll describe my family in a minute, and he'll find he's the second one up. My brother Roy was there, and he said something or other, and I said, oh, I've just been in the name of the sweet shop, and they got a great big jar in there. I'm not sure. I think it was for charity, and I think it was a halfpenny to try, or maybe it was a penny, one or the other, a copper coin. And whoever got the nearest got the bottle of sweets. So he said, okay. He said, I've got to go. And maybe mother or father said, while I'm there, would he get so-and-so? So I went back with him down the street, crossed over the road, Campbell Road. Anyway, crossed over the road into the sweet shop, got the stuff that the parents, I think, had asked him to get, and he paid the halfpenny or penny to try and, well, what's your name? Oh, his name's, no, let him say it. You say your name, yeah. Ken Ross, because don't forget, I was only 3. But I can remember the picture of that shop now. I can see myself in there, clear as a bell. Isn't it funny? And I didn't win. But I said, it's up in the thousands. He said, oh, yeah. So anyway, that was it. So that was the first thing that I can really remember.
Excellent.
Anyway, next question.
Okay, so what was your childhood home like?
Pretty full, because I was the youngest of my father's 4 children. And my mother's previous husband, which I may have told you, was an ex-naval person stationed in Portsmouth dockyard boat. Anyway, that boat eventually sailed to Australia, and that was the last we saw or heard of him. I mean, I didn't know about him. I was only 3 years old. It wouldn't have rang a bell. Anyway, that's what happened. So my mother's first son and 5 children, for goodness sake. Why my father married a woman with 5 children, God only knows. But he must have loved her. She was probably quite a pretty woman, I don't know. And I think that was about it. So, yeah, I can think of nothing else from them.
What about the town or city you grew up in? So assuming that was Portsmouth. So tell us what it was like
That
back
was
then.
Portsmouth. At the end of Centaur Road,
Mhm.
down the road that ran that way, we ran that way. This road ran that way. Was a school, Flying Ball Lane. Flying Ball Lane was the name of the school. Sorry, Mark. What was your question again?
Yeah, well, just tell us about the town and city back then that you grew up in. What was
Well,
it?
that was basically Portsmouth. We lived in there until I must have been coming up to somewhere near 5, so I was 4 something, and my mother moved with the family from there to Highgate Road in Copner. Do you want to know how to get to Highgate Road? No?
Yeah, tell us. Yeah.
Well, if you come out of Copner Road School and turn right and go down the first road that's on your right with Harry Wayne's grocery shop on the corner of Tokyo Road, I think. Go right to the bottom of it, and then the road that runs along that way, left, you've got to turn left, because right was part of the school grounds, because it was the end of the road, and the railway was on the back garden, if you like.
Mhm.
The railway ran along the back garden. And that was the train out of Portsmouth going up to Cosham, of course.
Yeah. What was it like growing up? What was it like being in Portsmouth at that time?
Well, it was okay. The thing that I remember most about Portsmouth, and it's a horrible thing to remember, there were quite a few people with hunchbacks, or they had straps on their legs because they had something wrong with their legs. And that was like metal with leather straps on, so that they were able to obviously walk without crutches, but they could hobble along at a fast rate, but they couldn't walk properly because they had these straps in it like a cage around their legs.
Well, what was it like for you?
Well, I was all right. I was a fit little lad. As I said, I was a stealer of people's apples and pears, whatever. And it was invariably me that went over the wall or over the fence, whilst all the rest of the gang kept watch in alleyways, because there's quite a lot of alleyways around that part of Copner, which branched off of the road to go across to Baffins. The road to go across to Langston Harbour was across the railway line, which ran from Copner Road to the railway crossing. That was called Burfields Road. Do I need to describe what was on in Burfields now? Or?
No, so it's more to do with finding out about you more than anything else, and like your experiences more than anything else.
Well,
So,
I used to spend a lot of time. We used to spend a lot of time when it was free, i.e., no school, whatever, or a weekend, and we would cross the railway line. There was a signalman, obviously, in a box on the railway line at the end of Burfield Road. So we looked up at him and waved and said, made signs, because he was in a glass container, not all glass, wooden glass, and they could look out the windows. And he would say, okay, you can come in, and he would release the gate. There was a gate on the side of, because if traffic was going to cross there to the brickworks, the swing gate would open both sides of the railway track, to let vehicles go in or come out, go along Burfields Road into Copner Road.
Mhm.
And as you went from Copner Road along Burfields Road, you crossed Highgate Road, which was there. So I lived in the area for quite a while. Started school from Highgate Road. I was coming up to 5 now. Exactly when that was before 5, Mark, I'm not sure. So it could have been that I was 14 3/4, 11 months, something of that nature. So many weeks before, anyhow, maybe 3 or 4, maybe a bit more, I started school. And that's where I met a gang of people that lived along from me. If I drew you a mental map, this is Highgate Road. This is Highgate Road. This is the back of the school grounds where they used to do gardening and practice. Then you would come along and then you would get to the end of Burfields Road, and obviously there was the gate I was telling you to get across to Langston. The next road going down there was Glenthorne Road, and at the bottom of Glenthorne Road was a block street called Ninian Park Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, of course, at the end of Ninian Park Avenue was the railway lines, because that's the way they ran.
So who are these people?
And from there, the boys used to go to Copner Road School, the same as me. There I made a very good friend, Jeffrey Wiseman, and I was friends with him till I was coming up to 15. So he was and we went everywhere together. So that was one sort of, played with Gerald Broad and lots of other people that lived in that area. But in the main, my close friend was Jeffrey Wiseman, whose father, he was an officer in the Royal Navy, and he had 4 sons. 3 sons were in the Royal Navy, all older than Jeffrey Wiseman, who was my friend. His birthday was close to mine, whether it was March or April or not, but it was pretty close. So when he was 5 and then I was just after him, and we used to play together quite a lot, and we would spend quite a lot of time at weekends over at Burfields, which is the other side of the railway gate I'm telling you about in Burfields Road.
Mm.
And he then left Copner Road Infant School, where, because he was older than me, so I might have only been 14 and 10 months old, because he was a couple of months or more older than I, and that's where I met him, at Copner Road School. We sat close together. He was quite an intelligent person. Obviously his father, for homework, because as we grew up through age, and then he went to a private school, Chivers. He went to a private school in Portsmouth called Chivers. I think it was in a church. But anyway, they taught very well, and he was well educated. And when he left school, he went. He couldn't join the Navy because he went one day without me on a Saturday afternoon and was playing near the golf course, which was in Burfields Road, which was the other side of the railway line. And he was shot in the eye with a pellet, so he was actually blinded when he was quite young, 8 or 9, that sort of age, I think. And we were queuing up, and we saw him go past in his father's motorbike, That's his father had a motorbike sidecar with his mother, and they drove up to the hospital, and he was blind for the rest of his life, so he couldn't join the Navy, of course. He was only blind in one eye, that eye that got shot by a pellet. But we were still friends and that, and then he joined the cadets, the naval cadets in Portsmouth. Yep. And as I think I've told you that story before, I would be coming up to 15. I went for a cycle ride on the Sunday morning. Then on Southsea Common, there was this band playing. I heard them. I watched them. They stopped playing, sat on the grass, had a cigarette, because they were only children, if you like, from like up to 16, because you had to be 16 to join the Air Training Corps in those days. But I joined the band, so I had a couple of 3 months to go before I was 15. Mm-hmm. And that's where they said, stand next to Tom Horscroft, and he'll help you to learn to play the bugle. Because the band played, the drummers in one room near Fratton Station, and him. Is this all being recorded?
Yeah.
Why don't he stop talking? Any other questions you want to sort of? You can interrupt any time.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's a good story.
So anyhow, we did almost everything together. He joined, because he said that he was going to join the Naval Cadets. And I said, oh, I was out for a ride on Sunday morning on my own, and that's a change, because if anything, we went out together. Jeffrey Wiseman and I said we were like brothers. Anyhow, I joined the Air Training Corps. He was in the Naval Cadets. I met Tom Horscroft. It must have been pretty sudden, although I was still friends with Jeff, because Tom Horscroft lived at down in the middle of Portsmouth, just at the top of New Road, cross over into I think it was Mill Lane that he lived. Anyway, it was number 3. And from then on, him and I did a lot together. Didn't see much of Jeff. We used to meet up occasionally. But then my friendship as a almost 15-year-old sort of moved away from Jeffrey Wiseman, because he took a different thing, and he's always doing homework. If I went round and said, coming out to play, he'd say, no, I've got this homework to do. And he used to do loads of homework. So I became more friendly with that, and I had a bicycle from somewhere. I don't know where I got it. Maybe it was my older brother who had moved away by then. That was from the first family. Ernest, his name was. Mm-hmm. And so I had this bike, and I used to get on this bike and cycle down to Tom's house, where he had a piano, and he had an accordion. I liked playing the piano. As I remember as a child, there was always a front room with a piano and a dog and a cat. I mean, they weren't in the room, but they were in the house, of course. So because he was musical, and I joined the band, and I love band music, because my father was an ex-band person, part-time, of course, when he was in the army, in the Gordon Highlanders. Anyway, Jeffrey Wiseman and I became stronger friends than it was with Tom Horscroft, rather, than Jeffrey Wiseman. And what happened was we became quite deep friends then, and Jeffrey Wiseman followed his part-time thing, which was the Naval Cadets. And obviously couldn't go any further because he had just one good eye. But we used to meet occasionally, but not very often. My main thing was on a Monday night at 7 o'clock and Friday night at 7 o'clock to go down to just across from Fratton Station, and Goldsmith Avenue was the entrance, to go up into this hall where we were in one room playing bugle, and the drummers, as I said earlier, played in another room. Tom Horscroft and I went on everything we did together. I'm going to jump a bit now till I was 17 and a half, and I joined the Royal Air Force on the 29th of November, and I was just 17 and a half. So I was born in 31, so it was just 1948. It was when the war started. Anyway, so we went on together and did things together. There was a group of children from a church, and they were forming a band. Somehow Tom got to, so he says, "You're going to come down with me," keep him company, I suppose. So I said, "All right, Tom." So we went down to this little band, and we started teaching them how to play they had E flat trumpets, we had B flat bugles, and that's what we started to play, and we started to teach them, and then we got more and more involved with that, and then we met the girls from the what were they called? Anyway, I'll come to that in a moment. Anyway, we went to the girls, and there we met I was in the RAF. I had just joined the RAF, so I was about 17 and a half. I joined in November. Tom Horscroft then, because we used to do a little bit of dancing, not much. Anyway, because he was like 17 and a half, he went to South Bray Pier on the Saturday. And that's when there were two bands playing at South Bray Pier, because there were two ballrooms. We went to the South Bray Pier on a Sunday, when one of the big bands from the radio used to play at South Bray Pier at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we would get down there for the 3 o'clock show, which played for 2 hours, and then the band left the stage and we left South Bray Pier. So we go up, and then I actually joined the RAF, go back to there again, on the 29th of the 11th, 48. Came home for the Christmas weekend. Tom had written to me and says, "I've fallen in love with a lovely girl. Her name's Lillian. She hates being called Lillian, so I have to call her Lily. And because you said you're coming on leave for a week, for Christmas week, to them to the camp and get rid of them, I suppose." Went to the pier, and I said, Tom said, "I'll see you down there, Ken, because I'm not too sure what time I'm going to be there," because he'd met a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So I said, "Okay." But he said, "Come up and we'll have a chat." So he said, "Come and join us. Don't not come and join us. If you see us in the dance hall, come over." So I did. And there was Marion Blake there, your grandmother. She was 16 and a half, because my birthday was on the 18th and she was the 16th. So apart from a year's difference, we were the same age.
Yeah.
And anyway, that sort of carried on. And then, I joined the RAF. you want a cup of tea or something?
I'm good. Honestly, I'm good.
Can I have a little stop?
Yeah. We'll have a quick pause. Let me pause it.
Oh, you've moved it. Okay. Is
Okay.
that from anywhere?
So, well, you can carry on what you were talking about a minute ago,
Oh, okay.
or I can go on to the next.
Yeah,
It's up to you.
And they follow on. So that was when I met Tom at the pier,
Mhm.
and we discussed everything. Oh, by the way, this is Lillian that I told you about, but we don't call her Lillian, do we, Lily? She said, you certainly don't. Anyway, and then he said, and this is Marion Blake. So I said, oh, okay. So we didn't talk too deeply about who this Marion Blake was, but I thought, of course, she's a nice looking girl. And I could see that when I was talking to her and she was answering me back, that it wasn't just a friendly talk. You could tell by her face and eyes and conversation, if you like, that she didn't say, who the bloody hell have you got here? You could see that there was an interest in this tall redhead or blood nut, going back to my first name change that I had. So anyway, the dance carried on, and obviously we stayed together. And Lily and Marion used to drink port and lemon. Only one. They would never have two. So they were a glass of port and lemon, because it was like a long drink, really. And so we went up, we bought a port and lemon, came back, sat at a table, chatted about various things. I come from a big family, said me. And Thomas told you my name, it's Ken Ross. Okay. Yeah. Well, my name is Marion Blake. Okay. And Lily and I, or maybe it was Lily that said, lived down in Portsea, 68 and 78. Oh, the name of the block of flats they lived in Portsea, and the name of the road, that even won't come. Anyway, so we chit-chatted and we got on quite fine together, and so it wasn't difficult for Tom. So while they went to the loo, we went to the loo, or something of that sort. But anyway, he and I went, into the loo together. So he says, I said, your Lillian's a nice looking girl, Tom. He said, yeah. So he said, I'm going to marry her. I said, oh, are you? Almost straight away. Because, as I said, we were 17 and a half. I had just turned 17 and a half, but he was a year older than me, and his birthday was May, but the 2nd.
Okay.
So there was 3 of us there. I'm not too sure when Lillian's birthday was. I can't really remember. I'd guess it. I'd get it wrong. But anyway, 3 Maybirds. And we got on well. He said, you like that girl? I said, how do you know? He said, oh, watch your bloody face. He said. So anyway, that was that. We came out and he said, we're actually going for a walk tomorrow. I'll mention it when we go and join up again, and we'll see what happens. You can watch faces just as same as me, because there's nothing. He was just a year older, and I used to pull his leg sometimes. I'd say, oh, all right, Dad. So he says, you bugger. Anyway, they were taking the youngest child from each family down to what they call the hot walls, and that's the walls down by the cathedral that overlook the water, you know, tomorrow. So during the course of this conversation, and he did bring it up somehow, so he said, will you be coming? And then a question came up round about then, I think. He said, have you, Lily or Marion, said, have you two been friends for long? Yeah, since I was 15. Well, I wasn't quite 15, but I joined the ATC, which is, you know, Tom and I are in the ATC, which they knew that, but they weren't in anything. But they both worked at the same. They lived above each other in the flats, and they both worked at the same Gives the Tailor in Queen Street. So, you know, and they had been friends when they used to go to school together from 7 years old. So their friendship was a long friendship. Tom and I's friendship at that moment in time, well, for me, it had been coming up to 15, and I was 17 and a half. So 2.5 years we've been friends. I mean, although I was RAF and away and so on, etc., lots of letters would flow backwards and forwards. Neither of us had a telephone each at either of our houses. And 17 and a half. So I went back. So I was home I came home on that Friday night, I think. I started my leave on a Friday night. Could have been Saturday, but I think it was Friday night. And it was for about a week. So every day, because Tom could drive a car, because he worked for Sparshets, the garage, along where Copner Road met London Road, and then it was yeah, I think that was 17. Yeah, it was that weekend. So we met, as I say, at the walls, and we saw the two girls each with a, one had a brother, one had, or maybe they were two little boys or two little girls. I can't remember. Anyway, it would be their two little boys from Marion's point of view. So yeah, and Lily had a little. Anyway, there were two young children there, about 5-ish, and the two girls were both younger. Obviously, they were 16, like I said before, and so we talked about their job, Gives the Tailors, and what they made, naval uniforms, of course, and then Tom was saying, obviously it was a Christmas week, and he wasn't working that week in the garage, I don't think. So he said, "Oh, we're playing." He's going out with his mum and Bill Kemp. We all squeezed in the car, and I think it was just Lily, and Tom's mum and dad, and their friend Bill Kemp, and they were going to go and play rounders or something in the country. We went in the pub, we had some sandwiches and things, you know, because we were 17 and a half, big boys. And anyway, then another day, Tom was able to have the car. We went and picked up the two girls because they were on holiday from work for that week as well. And we just went over to Boar Hunt, I think it was, somewhere over the back of the hill. and we went in this pub. I think we were supposed to be 18. But he was not as tall as I. But he looked older because he was 16. So I looked a bit older because I was tall. But I was 17 and a half anyway. Anyway, so we went to a pub and had a shandy or something, or maybe a port and lemon. And we drove around and just chatted. Took them both home. So he said, I'll see you. It was evening time by the time we got back. I mean, eaten anyway during the day. And he said, you've got to get a bus home because I've got to go to work in the morning, I think, on this particular day. So what did Mary? Was her house fairly empty or was it busy at the time? Because there was a hell of a lot of, there was a load of children in her family, of course, young. He said, well, you go and meet Marion's family or something. Well, that was arranged. How it happened, I'm not sure. Anyway, he said, I'll come upstairs and knock on the door when I'm ready that we can drive home. He said, I'll drive you to my house. And I forget what happened. Anyway, I disappeared upstairs and met Marion's family, and I thought, Christ, look at all the youngsters are here. Because they were like, I'll tell you their ages later, I won't give you details now. But her family, there were 5. Eventually, with 6 girls and 5 boys. There was 11 of them all told. So, of course, I'd have come from a big family anyway. And anyway, Tom came up and I jumped in the car and we drove home and sat in the car for a while, chit-chat, chit-chat, chit-chat. I said, you still going to marry that girl? Yeah. He said, what about you? He said, I don't know about getting married. I hadn't thought about that. I said, you're older than I am anyway. I said, you're well, then he was 18 and a half because I was 17 and a half in the RAF. So he was 18 and a half. So he was getting quite old. And he had a friend because they were both motor mechanics or motor engineers, I should say, because they were really both very good at their job. And he used to sort of see his friend because I was all over the place with the RAF, of course. Mm-hmm. And I spent my time away till I came back on the leave. So anyway, in the letters we wrote quite a lot to each other. You still with Marion? Yeah, we write quite often. I don't know, every 2 or 3 days or something, I'm not sure. Because I was in the RAF with a lot of strangers. Yeah. They came from London, Timbuktu, you name it. And so I was with a lot of strangers, whereas he was in his own house with all the friends and that he had before he and I were in the ATC. But bear in mind, we've been friends then for 2 years or more. And so there wasn't much that we didn't tell each other. We had no secrets, I don't think. And I was in the RAF. I applied to be a carpenter because that'd be a good job because it'd teach me to carpet. No, the woodwork. So I became a carpenter, which is being posted up to Blackpool. So I ain't much farther could I get away. So anyway, did Tom and I don't think we telephoned. Did he get a telephone? Don't think so. Anyway, we used to write a lot to each other, and he used to say how his life was getting on, and his friend, whose name won't pop into my head at the moment, who worked at a different garage doing his apprenticeship, but they used to meet at the same school to do their training as to be motor fitters. Yeah, motor fitters, not motor mechanics, because they were quite high up in their engineering side. Because his friend was obviously a year older anyway, so they were both of the same age, and I was a youngster really. But anyway, we all got on together, and then as soon as I came on leave, Tom more or less, if you like, divorced his friend, and because I was on leave and I had nothing to do all day basically because he was at work. So when it came to we had time off for any reason, normally a Sunday. Did he work Saturdays? Not always, sometimes I think. And we would go out with his family because they're sort of lifelong friend of Bill Kemp and his dad, who was also a William. And his name is William Horscroft. Not
Okay.
Tom, not Tom. He had a brother that was born and not long after passed away. So the brother was called Tom. We don't sort of speak about that. But he did have a sister, Betty. Then have a sister, Betty. And we got on fine, and she was engaged to a naval person whose name won't come at the moment, but they were quite good friends, and we the four of us got on fairly well together, but they were older. So whereas I was 17 and something, and Tom was 18 and something, his sister was 22-ish, I suppose, that sort of age. Anyway, Johnny Peacock. Johnny Peacock was his name. Anyway, they eventually got married, and I was one of the family because I was always up always up. Whenever I came on leave, I'd be at his. If he was home, I was at his house. That was the arrangement, basically. Occasionally, he popped in and saw my mum and dad. They got on the right. Oh, hello, Tom, so and so and so. How'd you get here? In your motorbike or car or your push bike? So, I mean, he had all those three things. That was sort of like marvellous. So he said, yeah. So we went out quite a lot, but he had to wait until I came back on leave.
Yeah.
Or a short day off, because obviously I was doing my trade training to be a carpenter. I thought, have I chosen the right thing? Well, I didn't know any better. Anyway, whilst we were still young in our relationship with each other and with the two girls, I think I was informed that it'd be a good idea if I went overseas and volunteered to go to a foreign country, which seemed ideal to me, being like coming up to 18 in the May, but I was still doing my trade training from 17 and a half up till I was 18, and so that happened. So I wrote back and I wrote back to him and obviously Marion and said, I'm being posted to Germany. So we were all in a bit, and I went to a Royal Air Force camp called Bridgenorth up in the middle of the country. Went there for a while, and then another letter after about 2 or 3 days. Get on parade again. Went on parade. When he got issue with clothing for Germany, I forget what it was. It wasn't very much. I went to the stores, queued up, got issue with German type uniform stuff. That lasted, I think, about 2 days, or maybe lasted 3 days. Cancel that posting to Germany. You're not going to Germany. You're going to Singapore. got to get these facts straight. So, okay. Hello, mate. So. Mine, I'm not going to Germany, but it's been changed now, and I'm going to Singapore. I'm not too sure of the date, but it's in a couple of weeks' time or something of that sort. So I got a bugger about it at Bridgenorth here, doing whatever I did, praise and all sorts of other odd jobs, digging a garden or something. I don't know. So, however, I did that for about maybe about three weeks. Maybe I was there, and I thought, oh, I want to get another spot of leave, embarkation leave, which I believe I got, and I'm not sure how long that was for. It could have been a fortnight, but I'm guessing now. Anyway, I was able to go back home again for a short while, and then come back and say goodbye. Love you lots.
Mm-hmm.
I'll write to you fairly regularly. I know that you go to work and you've got a big family at your house, so it's going to be difficult for you. Whereas I should be in a billet or something somewhere, and be overseas. But I don't want you to go with any other boys. I want you to stay true to me. I don't know whether I said something like this, but I probably did, because I'm going to be like Tom, because I'm going to marry you. So that's what happened. Anyway, eventually it came to the point where I had to get on a boat from Southampton, HMS Windrush,
mm-hmm.
the one that brought all the people from Jamaica, and had all that big row over. You probably watched it on the news recently. So I got on the boat, the Windrush, and it stopped at a couple of stops on the way. It stopped at Singapore. No, it didn't. Never got that far. Port Said. It stopped at Port Said in Egypt. I can tell you a couple of stories about that later on. It stopped to the port in Egypt. We were allowed to go ashore, which we did with the people that I teamed up with. Could you make friends quickly in the services?
Yeah.
Only casual friends or whatever. And apart from some other people that were carpenters as well, so I knew them from when I was stationed at Blackpool, at Royal Air Force Wheaton, it was called. And what happened next? When on the boat, went to Port Said, stopped at Port Said, went on shore leave. Anyway, we're getting closer to the next port that we were going to stop at. I think was Ceylon, so we were going to stop at the Colombo, mm-hmm. which of course the main port in Ceylon. So we got there. Okay. The following personnel, after pay parade on one day, we all got papered up, sign our name, etc. I think I had to get 30 shillings 1 week, a fortnight I should say, and then a fortnight later get £2, then 30 shillings, £2 every fortnight. Anyway, so had pay parade, right. After pay parade, the following personnel will fall out to the right. The rest of you will, when your name's called, come up, collect your pay, and then disappear off the deck of the boat. So anyway, all the names are called. Ross, Sir 263. So I went and stood with the other group of people. All the rest had gone. So the officer, whoever it was, said, right, now you bunch of scallywags or whatever he called us, you bunch of people are being left tomorrow at Colombo. You'll get off the boat and A, B, C, D, and he spelled out what we had to do, get your kit ready, etc. for leaving. Because you are all being posted to Ceylon. Most of you will go to Negumbo, but others will go to a couple of other units that are in Colombo, are in Ceylon. And so the next day arrived. We had to be on deck at a certain time, so we got on deck like a parade. So we all lined up. Right, answer your name. Step forward. Answer your name. Ross, sir, 263. Step back. Everybody else had the name. Right. Follow. Get into a group. We got to a group, and we got off the boat. Got onto a vehicle, and we were driven to an RAF station called Negumbo to do carpentry work. Are you born?
No.
So we got to Colombo. Sort of left Colombo. I walked down the high street, and they said, "I think that's the time it happened." No, we didn't go. We didn't go from a mill that day. I think we got straight onto a gharry. That's a lorry with all our kit bags and stuff. And we drove to the camp. Got to the camp. Royal Air Force Salute. Got to the camp. Got off. Stood in line and said, "Right, A, B, C, whatever their names were, and Ross." Yes, sir. Falling over there, we fell in over there, right. You'll be in vehicle number 1 or A, whichever it was. So it came to that. We got on the vehicle, we drove about 20 miles, I forget the exact figure. Went through these gates of an RAF camp. I thought, Christ, look at all those bloody coconut trees. We were actually based, RAF Negumbo was a coconut plantation and an airfield. So the coconuts everywhere. So when I got there and put into a billet, I'm jumping the gun. So anyway, we all formed up and said, right, you are going into billet number 242. That rings a bell. Might not be right, Mark, but I went into the split. We called it 242 anyway. I'm sure it was 242. So anyway, the gharry took off and drove into the RAF Negumbo camp.
Yep.
And right, following personnel will get off. That's Smith, Jones, and they got off and they went into that billet. Okay, the rest of us stay where you are, and we went to 242 billet, and that was where I was stationed all the time that I was in the Gumbo. So I'm going to break into the story a bit. I used to do a lot of running. I don't know why I wanted to keep fit. Probably just one of those things. But bear in mind, this was September. Now. I finished my course.
Do you remember the year?
Sorry?
Do you remember what year, roughly?
Yeah, that'd be the next year. So I joined the RAF in 1948, did my square bashing, which I've jumped.
Mm-hmm.
Went to my training in Blackpool. Stationed at Negumbo in Ceylon. Went to billet 242. About 20 in the billet, 10 either side of the billet, and 2 corporals lived with a curtained area, one on one side of the curtain, one on the other side of the curtain for the 2 halves of the billet. And I was put on the right hand side, and that's where I stayed until I was sent back to Blighty when I was about 18 something. I didn't mind that when I look in reverse. Time back. So anyway, I was there and we landed in September. So I was at the course in Blackpool until about sculling around really. I can't remember what I did because I was between postings. Germany had gone by the by. Then I was going to Singapore. The boat got as close near to Ceylon and kicked off with a load of other lads. Not a tremendous amount, but a smallish group of lads. And they were, because I think some of them were going to Singapore as well, but they never made it because they jumped on the Garries that were going to Negumbo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got in the billet. That was that. I was in the first thing, of course, write a letter. Hello, darling.
Yeah.
That was to your nan. I'm here, this, that, and so on. And I heard all these noises in the night. So, of course, I think 3 of us from the boat were carpenters, and were put into the same billet, 242 billet. Dennis Proudman, Jock Terry, and me. Funny how the names come back.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, we were in the billet then, and obviously we all met up with different friends. Anyway, I wrote off the letters, dear mum and dad and whoever. Put the address in. Told them about the camp a little bit, and said when I know more what I'm working and where I'm working, I'll write another letter. What was I going to say?
You mentioned a noise in the night.
Oh, there was a noise in the night. Thanks, Mark. There was a noise in the night, and I thought, what the bloody hell was that? So, of course, I was lying in bed and we had mosquito nets around us because in Ceylon, we used to call them shit beetles. But they used to wet on you, and if they wet on you, it was like a poison that burned, like soda.
Okay.
So you get a burn, you get a bloody red mark on your body. So that's why you had mosquito net. I don't think there was a great deal of mosquitoes in Ceylon, but I don't know about Negumbo because we're there was an airstrip there, of course, and I'll say it was also a coconut plantation. So anyway, I mentioned to the fact. I said, "What's that noise?" And they said, "Oh, you don't want to go outside," because there was the billet, that's just like a roomed house when you would sleep on the side. Mm-hmm. Then there was a little wall between there and some wire work, so that no wild animals could get in, or basically loose wallers, that's people who steal.
Yep.
Local Ceylonese people that crept onto the camp and got into there and stole your stuff while you slept. So they got this sort of fencing, if you like, made of metal strips.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing, Mark. And so, of course, they were taking the mickey out of us. What do they call us? Moon men. As though we come from the moon, because we were all white and they were brown and red and whatever colour. Some of them were almost bloody black. They'd got so much sun. But then again, of course, your tour of stopping there was 2.5 years. That's how long I was going to be there for. Anyway, I'm going to jump the gun a bit because I'm probably going to jump the gun anyway. So I was put into a carpenter shop that was in a hangar, in which there were MTR and it was called MTR and SF, Motor Repair and Servicing Flight. So the people in there were motor fitters and mechanics. There was a couple of electricians and other trades, plus the carpenter shop. Were in charge of the carpenter shop were, because of those three I told you of earlier, Dennis Sproulman and Jock Peary. Dennis Sproulman went to Station Workshops. He was posted to there. I can't think where Jock Peary went at the moment. And of course I was put into MTR and SF. And in charge of the carpenter shop was two corporal carpenters who'd both been in quite a long while.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting on a bit. And 3 or 4 civilian, local Singapore people. They're not Singapore. Ceylon people. So we got one. There was a bugle and drum band. That's where I was posted there. I think. There was a bugle and drum band there, and so obviously I had a phone call, and I went along to a band practice night. Wasn't during the day, and because obviously I went to sign. Because you had to get arrive with an arrival chit, what they call arrival chit, and it was a card in which you visited various parts of the camp, so that you knew where that was, and they knew that you were there.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, so at station headquarters they say, "We've got a band here. You playing the band? What sort of band was it?" Bugle and drum. Oh, well, that's all right. We got the same thing here. So you're at home. So if you go down and see Corporal, then his name won't come into my mind, and he was in charge of the band. I forgot what trade he was. I think he was also a motor mechanic or a motor fitter of some sort. I can't remember him being a member of MTR and SF. That was where I worked every day. And but it was quite good because there was a meeting within about 2 weeks of being there. There was a meeting, and everybody who worked there, officers down to men, because there were no women on the camp. Of course, there were no Women's Royal Air Force. It must have been about two weeks or so, and we all sat in chairs, and then we were given the lecture. And one of the things was, when people were coming into the country, normally people from the UK, and they brought in stuff to the customs, going through customs.
Yep.
They used to commandeer the cigarettes. They commandeered other things as well. But as far as we were concerned at that meeting, they commandeered cigarettes. And this officer said, we counted the number of people, and we know how many of you smoke. We know how many of you smoke. Sorry for the lads who don't smoke, but for those of you who smoke, you got, I'll just grab a figure, 250 American cigarettes and 500 English cigarettes. There's a few pipe tobaccos for those people who smoke a pipe. And you were sitting there and you had to come up and you had signed for it, and you got this little package, and inside there were 3 fags. And that used to happen fairly regularly. When I say regularly, it might be every couple of months or so.
Yeah.
It all depends how much the customs people picked off incoming passengers were bringing stuff into Ceylon, not only service people, obviously, but civilians for some reason.
So can we go back to this noise?
Go back to
the noise you heard at the night time. So you had the net curtains round, you heard this noise and they said to you,
Oh yeah,
don't
yeah.
go out there.
Yeah, there were tigers and bears and all sorts.
Well, there was, it was
Well,
all, it
don't
was all the
forget,
wild
we
animals.
had only arrived that day,
Hmm.
so obviously we got off the boat. I think we arrived in the morning, but that's only a guess. So it wasn't long before night time came, and we went for a meal into the mess, and then taken back by some of the lads from there. Quite a good arrangement for food, and we were quite spoilt there. And then we came back to the billet, so we had to be guided back to there. And they said, if you hear a funny noise, run like hell. It's a coconut falling out the tree. And if they fall down and hit you, you'll be bloody injured. And we're not joking. This is no joke.
Mm.
This is what used to happen. So if you were ever cutting a shortcut, you could go out by a pathway, or you could cut across an angle and get quickly into the airman's mess to get your food. So if you were walking along, or jumping the gun, if you were walking along and you heard a sort of rattling noise or tearing noise, you ran like hell. Because obviously there's a lot of snakes in Ceylon.
Yep.
And they would get up to the trees and they might dislodge a coconut, and that would obviously fall through the bushes, you know, the leaves, and they would come. Well, I mean, they're that big. That's inside, and so of course, sometimes with the corking that went round the actual coconut, it would make the coconut maybe from point to point 6, 7, 8, 9 inches, 10 inches long, and it was that sort of shape, like a bow. And the actual coconut was, say, diameter of 5 inches, but the shell could be anything up to, say, like 12 inches in diameter from point to point, because they're obviously oval shaped like an egg.
Yeah.
Or like a rugby ball shape, really. Anyway, that noise I told you about, well, I was pretty scared to death. I thought, Christ, I hope they can't get in. They said, has everybody got the corporal, the 2 corporals in the end, by the way. You had to be a corporal to get a billet place with this curtains. So you were private from the ordinary airman. And all right, quiet, lights out. 10 o'clock, lights out, 10 o'clock. And that was one of the corporals doing that, because it always had to be a corporal on duty in the bed. Corporals used to get duties as well, doing other things, you know. And we had to go on guard duty, and you were designated where to meet, and you would meet normally outside the cinema. So you go to the cinema and you will say, where's the guardhouse, where's the armory, where's the petrol, where's the, and you would, the camp was divided up, not everybody of course,
yep.
With a few people who were put on duty and used to get duty details, go up and station routine orders. You'd look on there every day to see if your name appeared anywhere, because if you didn't attend somewhere at a certain place, you're in serious trouble. So of course you had to read station routine orders, SROs, and that was that. Anyway, that was the noise. The noise factor wasn't the fact the noise factor. Dogs used to. There were the police dogs, and there were obviously some wild dogs used to get onto camp. Because if you think that there was an airfield, and it was also a coconut plantation, the airfield was there, and the coconut plantation where the billets were, for all the different trades people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. how big they were, whether it was a mile square or half a mile square, but it was quite a large chunk of land, obviously, because the airplanes were coming into land, and you know how big an airport is, so that's what you had to be aware of. Jumping the gun a bit here. Oh yeah, we had this meeting that I was telling you about in the very beginning, a couple of weeks or so, where we got the news about cigarette issue, and you had to go into the audio room, in the office, and sign your name and get your bag of fags, because they came in. Obviously, they got some containers, bags to put these. Sometimes it was just a block of 200 cigarettes. Sometimes it was 3 or 4 packets of cigarette. Well, you thinking, but that's 1,000 cigarettes.
Yeah.
20 in a packet, and they came in 200, 200 in a box. There were 10 packets in each block. Anyway, that was that. And then it said, so and so and so and so and so. It's a football match on so and so. They gave us sort of a bit of discussion. I don't know why it took so long in this particular one. Probably because there were a lot of fags being given away. So the boys were big claps all round. And they said, okay, that's that. Now in the Airmen's Mess, we haven't got a representative for MTR and SF. So I'm going to ask, is there anybody here who sort of knows anything about food? But that's not the main point. The main point is you look after any praise, if there is any, but mumbles and grumbles about the food, and can you get things changed, etc. And that's done by a representative. Put your hand up. Not a one. So some silly little redhead that was sitting there, or it's a little one. Oh, you've just joined us, haven't you? Better stand up. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Been here about 2 weeks or something like that. Okay. What's your name? Ross. Where'd you work? Carpenter shop. Okay. Right. Come and see me after. Yes, sir. So when it was finished, I went to the office. You told me, oh yes, you're the chap for the messing rep. Okay. So on, etc. What you got to do. Every so, and he gave me the date. The next one was due. He said, report to your 2 corporals, tell them, you have to be there at that office where there's, in the mess, where the catering officer will be there, and you have to report to him, and you come back from reporting to him. They'll have the meeting sometime before lunch, so it'll be in the morning. You'll come to work normally, get on the Gary, because the airfield was quite a drive away. Be at the airfield at 7 o'clock, go to work, you will finish work. Obviously I could get a vehicle because I worked in a bloody place where the vehicles were kept and repaired. And they said, you'll go down to the Airmen's Mess at so and so time, have your meal, and then come to work the next morning. Hours of work, 7 till 1. Finish work, get on the Gary, take it down to the mess, D-bus, go and have your meal, 3 in the afternoon. The rest of the time is yours. Next morning, be at the spot, I don't know, about 6:45 or something, or 10 to 7. You could leave it a little bit sometimes, you push your luck, and it's scramble to jump on the Gary to take it, because you always used to get on the same vehicle to get taken down to your place of work, which for us, of course, was the motor transport repair and servicing flight. So anyway, I went to this airman's mess meeting. So the other lads that had volunteered in the past, because they're some of them were black almost, were brown as berries, would answer any questions or give up, had a complaint about the potatoes not being cooked enough or whatever. Now you're a new lad. When was it you arrived here? This is a question to me from the catering officer. Having red hair, I never went white to brown. I went white to red, sunburn, pain, get over that, back to white. So I had to keep myself just a little bit tanned. So I used to do swimming. That's why I used to do a bit of running, because I could take off my jumper or sweater or something and run around the airfield, whatever I did the training. But anyway, having the meal part, right, Ross, you say your name is? Yes, sir. Have you got anything to say? I don't really know exactly what I have to do, so I'll find out that I've got to come with complaints. But there's obviously good things happen, so it can be praised. Or could we have certain foods and well, that's quite right. So you come here with good things and bad things, but anything to do with eating, that's the seats in them, the tables, whatever's put on there, whatever meals are done for any reason whatsoever, you have got to have the facts. So you will come to a meeting like today, which is I think a monthly meeting, and you will read the date, you will read the meal, you will read the complaint or whatever. Okay, sir. So I will go there. And of course, I took this like, if you don't do this properly, you'll be in bloody trouble. Because I'd only just been in the area for 2 minutes really, did my square bashing, did my trade training, got buggered about for getting posted overseas, eventually get on a boat, get kicked off the boat at a place I wasn't going to. So and within the fortnight I was sort of in the RAF. I hadn't known I was in the RAF before, because I joined in November, and this was next year, September.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Right, Ross, welcome to the meeting. It's new for you, the others are old, so you listen to what they've talked about. What have you got? I took that job seriously. I can't remember up here, sir, but I've written it down. Okay. On the something of something, potatoes. On the something or something, the cabbage was upside down. On the something of something meal, there were flies in the... And, have you finished, Ross? Yes, sir. That is my last item. Well, I'm sorry you're a bit late today, boys, but obviously these taken it on, and I'm very pleased that you've really taken a serious view of this, and you're coming here with a report. And I was like that all the time. So when I went to the next meeting, right, so-and-so, no, that was me. Oh, I thought he's not gonna. I must have done something wrong. What did I say? I didn't speak out. So in my brain, I'm sitting there thinking I've done lots of things wrong. He said, right, you all finished? Stand up, Ross. Go. Or worse to that effect.
Yeah.
As though I was in a bloody race. So I said, yes, sir. Have you got your notes? Yes, sir. Okay. Read them. Lumba-lumba-dum, bumba-lumba-dum, umba-lumba-dum, umba-lumba-dum. Only 4? You sure? Oh, good. Hey. I used to get a bloody clap. And you could hear them saying, good job you got people like him, sir, isn't it? It is, yes.
Excellent.
So I took that job very seriously. And if you like, I think that was the beginning of me losing the fear of speaking before people.
Okay.
because they were all listening, because they all had to shut up, because there might be about 8, 9, 10 people some from the armory, some from station headquarters, some from different parts of the camp. So, I don't know, we were about 1,000 strong men, I suppose. So there's obviously different parts. Whew. Have I been talking all that time?
It's all right. You're still going.
Oh right.
So just final one then maybe for today. So you said about this.
But if there's any questions that have come up that I haven't covered fully for you enough, tell me them now,
Of
Mark.
course. Well, the only thing I was going to ask you was just, you said about when you joined, you did like square bashing or something or other. What was that?
Square bashing is recruit training.
Okay.
Yeah. So
just not heard that term
you had
before.
to learn how to salute, how to wear your uniform. When you're going back to the ATC days. So of course,
what's ATC?
I mean the Air Training Corps.
Okay.
That was like young civilians, boys really, joining maybe to be a recruit in the future for that particular Army, Navy or Air Force, so to speak. That's what the reason was. So of course you've got a uniform, and you couldn't get a uniform until you've been to trade training with them. And their trade training was teaching you all about the Air Force, how to march, how to salute, and various other things that related to the Air Force, so that you didn't disgrace the fact that you were wearing Air Force blue uniforms, Air Training course on your shoulder, and following orders and doing what you were told and all that. So basically, apart from being in the service, you were a serviceman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you had to do everything that they did. Put your hat on the right, and the badge had to be in the right place. And if you so you couldn't wear any old thing. You had to wear, black socks, black shoes. Could you wear boots? I'm not too sure about that. Yeah, I think you could wear boots, because sometimes you did something that required boot wear. Like on a camp, if you're doing a route march or something, you had to wear boots. If you could afford them, of course, because they couldn't make you buy anything. I can't remember how I got my boots, but I didn't do much because I was in the band. I was more or less. I didn't have. I had to go to school. I went. It was actually held in a school. Once a month, twice a month, every week. I can't remember now, but I had to attend this spinning, learn how to salute. Your hand had to be a certain shape, and a long way up, short way down, all sorts of things of that nature. So you had to do your square bashing, and you did it on a playground, and then sometimes you would link up with air training squadrons, maybe Petersfield or Havant or Timbuktu.
Yeah.
And you all went on parade, and there was a band playing, and so you had to know how to march, how to get sized off. Right, okay, fell in. You got fell in. Tallest on the right, shortest on the left. Right. So you all jiggle around. Are you? Yeah, all right. So you got the tallest on the right and shortest on the left. Right, okay. Number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've seen it on television when you've seen the service people. So we had to do the same as what they do or did in the actual armed forces.
Sure. Like
I was, 23 years nearly. Oh, I never told you that part. That's in there, isn't it? 29/11/48, and I served. So then I was 17 and a half. You remember my birthday's in May, and then I came out. In April. I came out of the Royal Air Force in April because you got discharged. that was a format of ceasing your employment with the Royal Air Force just a month beforehand. So I got demobbed. I got demobbed in the April from Thorney Island, because that's where I finished up at. I had a chance to. I didn't know that had upset you now, because I thought she wanted to move back to Portsmouth. I'd have thought, because we were living in Stafford at the time, but I was demobbed from there. 'Cause, I mean, we had our own house. I was buying our own house. I was stationed at. I'm jumping the gun again, Mark. So you have to put this together. I would be a sergeant, and I was stationed at Sopley, which is just north of Christchurch, on the south coast, a bit further along near Bournemouth. What was I going to say? Yeah, I got demobbed. I know what it was. In my RAF career as a sergeant, when I got up to sergeant, I didn't want any more. One day, one of my senior officers said, I don't know if they're getting short of flight sergeants, so I don't want to be one of them, sir. I'd rather stay a sergeant. Have you got a reason for that? Yeah, I'd rather keep it to myself, please. Is that possible? I really don't want to get promoted. I'd rather stay as a sergeant, because it gives me a lot of room, because a flight sergeant is more important. And as you know, I play in bands and I referee football. So I started going then into my bloody hobbies, the things that I like to do. So I didn't want any promotion. But in my RAF career, this is not boasting, this is just things that actually happened. It happened 3 times. At 3 different units, where there was a senior officer, like the equipment officer, and invariably I always ended up, I didn't work in the store, although we looked after stores. I was a paper mill merchant.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't want you there, we want you here. So I was in what they called EPAS, Equipment Provisioning Accounting section. That's where I worked. Always, everywhere, all over the world. And 3 officers said, Sergeant Ross, yes sir, can you come in the office? Yeah. So I went in his office, obviously with a little cubicle with a shut door. So and 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 so. What do you think? Does that mean getting promoted? And I just sort of give him that old-fashioned look of, what are you asking me? And he said, yeah. He said, what it is? He said, but he said, you'll be going to officer training school. And I probably asked the most stupid question, something like, does that mean that I should be an officer then? Yeah, you'll do all the recruit training that an officer does, and you'll be taught the mannerisms, etc. And you will come out the RAF a lot richer than if you stay as a sergeant. Basically, that's it. One way, it's looking after your career. You'll get promoted. You might get rapid promotion. We don't know. But we looked at your records and we've seen that you sort of refused once. So that happened 3 times.
Yeah.
So that was lovely, really, when I look back, to think that somebody who was cockeyed in thinking should get the chance of being promoted, go to officer cadet training school, and then become an officer. Pilot officer, flight lieutenant, squadron leader, wing commander.
Yeah.
And so on up the ladder. And it's a funny thing, Mark, because when I came out into Civvy Street, newspaper. Equipment person wanted somewhere. I thought, well, of course you can do that. Not very good, but not bad. Come in. Oh yes, you're Mr. Ross. Yeah, please sit there, Mr. Ross. Chit chat. Yeah. Well, what we do with so and so and so and so, we pay £2 a week, or whatever it was. So and so and so and so. And we do this, that, and the other. Can I take you around? Yeah. This is the stores. Okay, and this is what you'll do. Can we go back in the office? Sit down. You're quite comfortable? Yes, thanks. Can I say something to you? I would love to have. This is true. There's no bullshit. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Right, Mr. Ross. I'm not going to. Didn't happen once. Similar things. I'm not going to ask you to work for me. You'll start on Monday. By the end of the week, if it's fast, or by the end of the month, if it's a bit slower, you'll say, this is not for me. There's nothing to do here. I can't progress. I can't, your knowledge or your command of the English language, things of this sort came up.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you will be wasted. And he said, you'll come to me one day and says, what's that? Handing in your notice. So he said, I don't want to have you. And that happened more than once.
Yeah.
So I used to walk out of the bloody door, going to look for something else. They don't like you. There's something about, it's your bloody red hair, I think. There's just something about your face or your person. They don't want you in here. So the nicest and kindest way they can tell you something nice, that you want to leave us. I thought, then after, it became a habit, Mark. I would go along to a job and thought, can I go, what do you want me for? I wanted to walk, and I would be a bloody numbskull.
Yeah.
A fly in the ointment. Don't want you. Because you'll be taking charge. Anyway, I tried 2, maybe 3, it maybe could have been 4 jobs when I come out the area. So I thought, I don't know.
We are going to do.
I think I'll get a job as a milkman. All I've got to do is get a bottle and. So when I went to Cosham for an interview for the job as a milkman, he said, so and so. What did you do in Civvy Street? So and so. Have you got educational qualifications? You can't lie, see, because you've got to tell the truth. Okay. What we do, we're going to put you with someone who's going to take you out for a week, be with you for a week, and he'll probably say, do this, do that, pick that up, deliver that, put the bottle in there, don't do, and he would tell you exactly what to do. Okay. And then they used to have things because that was with Unigate,
Mm-hmm.
and that was Cosham. And they said, by the way, we do orange juice, we do potatoes, we do. And if you can do something like that, you'll get paid, apart from your wage, for doing that job on that particular round, you'll earn so much from selling so many oranges, so many potatoes, so many eggs, whatever.
Yeah.
So I used to go around and collect the money every week, which you have to do. Hello, Mrs. Jones. Oh, hello, milkman. Have you got any specials on today? They were, because obviously other milkmen had served them in the past. The left got the sack, or I don't know what. So I was getting paid, I don't know, let's say £10 a week and £1.50 selling stuff.
Yeah.
On top, commission, or I don't know, whatever. 3 months I was there. 2 can you go to, it's over the back of the hill, Wimmery? No. Anyway, I went to another milk place. I wasn't at Cosham anymore. I was actually transferred to there, but only for a short while to begin with. Then, I'm sorry, Ken, but they want to keep you there, and we don't want to lose you. So what I'm going to do is promote you to supervisor. So you're doing the same job, but you've got to look after, I think it was 3 rounds. You've got to know 3 other rounds, or was it 6? Memory. So anyway, I did this, and I came back to Cosham and took over supervisor. So I went with the person whose round it was. By this time, I knew what the end of a milk bottle looked like, because I've been with him for a few months.
Yeah.
3 months, in actual fact. So I was promoted, and I went. I learned this, and I learned that. Learned something else. Went on, learned different rounds, and something was happening. You got to see the manager in the morning. So whatever, I don't know, whatever. So I came out, saw the manager in the morning, or whenever it was, when I finished the round. Came back into the depot, and the manager said, "Oh, so and so and so and so, Mr. Glenister wants to see you." Now he was in charge of all the depots round here. I think there was 4 or 5 in the Isle of Wight, and half a dozen round here, and he's in charge of all the managers, because he's the district manager. Oh, all right. Oh shit, got the sack. I haven't done anything. Oh, come in, young Ross. Hello, Mr. Glenister. Sit down. Chit chat. So. Question, answer. Question, answer. Question, answer. Question, answer. I thought, what's this bloody interrogation for? So he said, right, I've learnt enough. What I'm going to do, I'm going to promote you to branch. Oh, what do they call it? Branch manager, not branch manager. Assistant manager. I forget the title. I forget the bloody title. That's how bad my memory's getting, Mark. Anyway, he said, we're going to send you to Southsea. Now, I heard that Southsea was about the biggest depot in the district, including the ones over the Isle of Wight.
Yep.
For some reason or other. So I said, oh. Not branch. I think it was called branch assistant manager. I really can't remember what the title was. But anyway, so I was made a branch assistant manager. You'll start on Monday. You'll report to there's a bus company in Portsmouth that begins with an L. Do you know it?
No.
It'll come after you've gone, I expect. Anyway, it's trying to research my brain. Anyway, he said, you're going to go to this job. And he said, his name wouldn't come there. Anyway, you'll be under, and he's been in the milk business for I don't know how long, but we're transferring him to somewhere else. And you're going to take over. And he's going to teach you everything that an assistant branch manager knows, and then we're going to make you, and then we'll make, if you prove okay, we'll make you up to a full manager. So I went there as an assistant to the manager, not a branch supervisor. Maybe it was called branch supervisor.
Okay.
You know, you're either a milkman or a branch supervisor, and then the manager. or assistant manager, I don't matter. And so I went there in about I suppose I could have only been a supervisor for about 6 months, I think. Because it was before Christmas. It was before Christmas, and I went there, and so Peter Luckett, I said his name would come, didn't I?
Yep.
Luckett Transport, Luckett Coaches.
Okay.
They're quite big. I think their headquarters is Waterlooville, maybe Cape Plain. Anyway, it was Peter Luckett. Whether he was one of their family, I don't know. But anyway, he was manager of Salesea. So I went to him and he said, "Oh, you're the Ken Ross I How you getting on, Ken?" So on, etc. He said, "I've got a little task. I'll teach you as much as I know. But what I'd like you to do is not get too much into the rounds at the moment. We've had, what he didn't say was I've had a bollocking because I didn't do very well at the Christmas hampers last year. So I've got to improve this year." He didn't tell me that, but that was the reason that he said, "I wonder if I could give you a little exercise to do." He said, "It means going on different rounds, but you'll find out about the rounds quicker. You'll take an old rounds book, which obviously sometimes was several hundred customers." "Hello, Mr. Bartlett. My name is Ken Ross. I'm assistant manager at Salesea. And have you ever thought about buying a hamper at Christmas from Unigate Dairies? Here's a leaflet. It's got all the stuff in there." And I think at the first 2 or 3 doors, because I hadn't done that sort of thing before, had I? So I had no idea. Anyway, so I thought, I know what. The name of the milkman is Mark Bartlett. Okay. "Good morning, Mr. Jones," because I was on that page and it had his name and address and so on, etc. And what they delivered, so much milk, so much goods and stuff. Mm-hmm. We're doing a bit of a promotion, and I'm the new assistant manager that's been posted at the depot, and he's quite a nice lad, your milkman. So the boss said, if I go and sort of knock on the door and say to somebody, we're going to try and help him get a good Christmas sale. In actual fact, we've promised that he could be number one. He could be the top person, and we've, as you know, we've got 11 rounds, 21 rounds, 11 rounds. Anyway, yeah, 11. We've got 11 rounds, and we're going to try and sort of get him up to top. So I'm being spared as the assistant manager there, because I'm going to become a manager sometime in the future. So this is a graining for me as well. But my main reason of being here is, would you like a hamper? Whichever way I put it. Yeah. And I got better as I got. I sold over 300 hampers. We used to have a monthly meeting at the pub in Havant. As you go, what was the name of the pub? As you go through Havant, you pass the bus station on the right. How can I describe it? Then you go past the traffic lights on the left, and then you got to turn left or right, left to the station and right to take the Havant Road. Well, as you went round the corner, there was a pub on the corner, and there was another pub about 4th or 5th or 6th building in on the left. And that's where they used to have the monthly meeting for all the managers, including the people from the Isle of Wight. So there'd be all the Portsmouth, Salesea and whatever. all the dairies we had here. Would have this meeting, and they were all there at this pub. I think it was called the Bird in Hand, but that's only a guess. It's a black pub anyway on the left hand side as you taken the road to Emsworth. And we got there, and it was obviously Mr. Glenister was taking it, and they used to say, "We got a new boy here. He doesn't know what a bloody milk bottle is, but he's better than all you lot put together." And I said, bloody cringe in the corner, because he was talking about me. He said, "Why don't you be like young Ross?" Well, he's not young because he's over 40. So I'll give him that. And he's been in the Air Force for 20 odd years. Is that right, Ken? Yeah, says Mr. Glenister. Right. Why don't you copy what he does and do that for your depot? If this person, he got promoted in less than a year. He didn't know a milk bottle, what a milk bottle was. But he went to manager in less than a year. He was a supervisor in 3 bloody months, for Christ's sake. But I mean, they didn't give me a lot of stick. But that's what he used me.
Yeah.
You know? He used me as the sort of scapegoat to getting things done or doing things a different way than they've been doing for donkey's years. I mean, some of them have been a milkman before the war, gone to war, come back afterwards. So they were like 60. I was about 40.
Yeah. I think
Have you done enough?
I think we might pause it for now.
All right.
And then we'll come back to. We'll just continue next time.
Everything
Yeah,
else
we've been at it for. We've got an hour and 45 so far, so we're doing quite well. So wave goodbye, and we'll see you next time.
How long have I been talking?